we are going to try to give you as much information as we know about the process, and obviously specific training if you go into training. There are lots of benefits that Missouri Career Center offers, as they'll present in their seminar, but I can help answer most of the questions about the training part. The others, we've pulled some information off the website. We went down to the St. Joe Career Center and we picked up a bunch of pamphlets and we put them all on the presentation, and we've put them all on our website, which I'll send you to. So there's things about healthcare in there. There's things about getting another job. There's things about anybody, is it over 50 or 55? Right. So there's lots of information. I can't answer almost all of them, but I can try to take questions that are maybe more difficult, and I can email my contact in St. Joe to see if they can provide an answer. So that's really what we're here. You know, I may not be able to help you with all your questions, but I'm going to absolutely try to get you anything that I know of, especially related to training. Anything else, I can point you to the right direction. The gentleman's name that offered up his email, David Schultz, and I've got his email. He's the one coming to the plant. So the more difficult questions that you have, if you've already been laid off and you can't make it to that, or if you're going to not be there, you can email that office directly. Okay, so one of the things about TAA when you decide to go for training is, and David said you're not allowed to borrow money, so don't take out loans for training. You don't need it. You shouldn't have to do it, regardless of where you go. Make sure that you don't. You know, short-term training sometimes isn't covered by grants or state money. You get more than enough funds to cover training, so make sure you don't get talked into borrowing money for anything whatsoever. David mentioned $15,000 for training. With most schools in particular, they're going to be able to scholarship that. We scholarship $24.40, but between the TA and if you qualify or need, Pell Grants, that is enough to go to school on, all the supplies, internet, whatever, computer, whatever you need to do the training. So again, you don't have to borrow any money to do that. Book, software, all that as well is covered by both TAA and then most schools, and our school in particular, it's all included. So you don't pay tuition, and then you don't have to go focus on getting each book or software or whatever it is that you're learning. So what we know, and boy, that is small from here. I'm going to step around here. So this is mid-May. They're going to come up and talk to you. I think he said 3 days?
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing individual. He's going to come do his interview. So I believe everybody who's already been laid off, they're scheduling interviews, and it's a requirement to even start using the funding as that initial interview.
Okay.
So that's the first step.
Right. So this is off the website, and again, some of these are the ones that they're going to talk about outside of the training. The reemployment services, and then of course the training related expenses, TRA allowances, health coverage, job search allowance, and I think that's a reimbursement, relocation allowance, and then reemployment trade adjustment for older workers. And this is the one that I think if you take a job at a lower pay, they'll supplement some of that up to a certain percentage. So I know that we had some phone calls about that in particular. It's not related to training, so that's something they're going to cover. But just to give you an idea, I think these are the top 7 that we found on the site and what they offer. So you need to schedule with the Missouri Career Center. The phone number for them I've just passed out. Best thing to do is to call, give them the information, and schedule that up. And I believe you're going to have to go up there, correct? Or is he coming on site to do some of those?
The ones that he's doing here, right. And
Okay.
the trick is that to call him and set it up before you're laid off, it's just going to be a big waiting game. It's really the moment that your last day is there, that's when you can initiate that process. So
right.
Really, he makes 30 days.
And one thing he did mention that I'm sure that you've been told, but if somebody leaves the position before their last date of employment, they probably won't qualify for this stuff. So you want to make sure that you or people stay to the very last minute and are released instead of just leaving. That can jeopardize a lot of things, he said. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of information that we get, and even the calls we've taken is going to be difficult for us to provide information. So on our website, at the bottom, we just put a link. That link is going to be trade adjustment. So what we're going to do is questions that were asked that we don't know, we're going to post there. We're going to post any information, the PDF, the flyer that he gave us, the three-ring pamphlet, which most of you already got, and we're going to post that there as well. And then any new information we get about dates and times when they're going to be up here, anything at all that we get, we're going to go ahead and post that as well. And you can spread that around to everybody. Some of the questions we've gotten so far about health, we did a little bit of research on that. you are going to be eligible, and then according to the pamphlet, it covers 72.5%, and then you end up covering the 27.5, and that starts again once you're laid off, absolute final date. And then I think it's in monthly or yearly options. They cover, according to the pamphlet, COBRA, state qualified, spousal coverage, and then these other two, non-group and BEBA. Unemployment insurance, as many of you are familiar with already, is 52 weeks. The way I understand it after talking to them is there are some states that we've dealt with in training that if you go to school or go to training, it disqualifies unemployment insurance. I don't believe that is the case of Missouri, talking to the office down there. So if you decide to seek training, and again, since ours is night and weekend training, and a position does come up, you don't have to choose one or the other unless you're working a later shift. And even then, we do have opportunities to record things. Things are recorded. It is online, so it's flexible. You're not set to specific class times on a regular basis. There are class times if you need that interaction with the instructor, but you won't have to choose one or the other. It's very flexible. So this is the basic information we have. I know the real bulk of this is going to be questions and answers, so that's really why we kept the presentation short. We brought some information from St. Joe that we've been trying to read up on to make sure that we have all the correct facts, and then of course we have brought information about just some tips, and then of course the content information from Missouri Career Center. So I think between the three of us, and there's actually a representative here from the local career office, so if there's any questions, now would be a good time to start, and hopefully one of the 3 or 4 of us can answer those questions for you. Yeah, sure. No questions at all? Well, there's two. You're going to be provided with 2 different placement services. Missouri Career Center offers their placement assistance, and our counselors on our staff offer career as well. So, ours typically is reserved towards the later courses when you've gone through, and we try to place you in that specific career that you're training for. And now, in the meantime, even before training or while training, Missouri Career Center offers its own placement assistance on a regular basis. So you would really want to take advantage of both 100% before your training's done. If you're doing training, if you're not doing training, they offer other things. But if you decide to do training, you'll try during and then after as well if you want to take advantage of that. But I know for the immediate, some of you that aren't going to go to training, there are immediate things that they're going to try to get you in different programs to help with reemployment. And one of the ones that we mentioned there, where if you're over a certain age and are taking a job that pays less, there's opportunity there as well to help you if you don't want to go back to training. And it's a personal decision.
But that just lasts for so long, right?
The training funds?
No, the
Yeah.
reimburse or the making up the difference.
Yeah, everything that's offered is got a shelf life, and it varies depending on the thing, I think, but and it's all in the pamphlet. But I think the training was up to 2.5 years, and then everything from there is going to be specific by the program. And it just depends on the qualification specifically, but everything has a certain time. They're all 100% online. Now, we've had students participate in an internship, and we've worked with the company to provide part of their experience and work there in lieu of projects. So since they're doing the work on site, but there's some paperwork that has to happen there, and obviously if it's a local or regional, it's easier to work with in state. But yeah, we've done that before, specifically in like healthcare and coding. Yep. But the courses are designed to be 100% online. That's an additional piece that we can accommodate. But everything is standalone. Even the practice and the hands-on projects and everything is all interactive based. Yeah, Ramsey's going to cover that.
We've got basically 5 big pain areas.
Yeah, and we didn't bring a lot of specific course stuff. It's all, I didn't want to print off a bunch of stuff and send you home with a stack of papers. Everything's on the internet, on our website. We do have a lot of videos that talk specifically about the different programs we have. If there's one in particular that you want us to send, or if you want us to send you that link, let Ramsey know, and he'll just put a little note next to your name, and we'll send you the specific program outlines. I do. I have our general statistic. I don't have specific to any particular type of funding, but 2012's placement in the field was 71%. So 71% of the students that graduated were placed in their field of study. The next question was,
do you have any that start and then say, I just can't cut it and I guess got to leave?
Yeah, and that's well.
Graduation.
Yeah, the degree completion graduation rate is around 56%. Now the diploma completion, which is the 1 year, was 79%. So some that decide to stop after a year, they can plan their start when they complete their certificate, so they have some credential to leave on. So you have a 1 year certificate, then that goes into a 2 year certificate, and then there's bachelor's and master's above that. But it's designed that way. If you need to stop, then you can stop with something there. Our credits stay good for quite a long time, so starting and stopping is no problem. Also, with the way the online platform works, most of our students, if they find employment, and a lot of our students come into school employed as well, so it is designed for accommodating other things besides school. You're not in there all day, every day. I would say that you need to try to set aside around 20 hours a week for this. And that it can be difficult on top of a full-time job, but we do have a number of students that do that. Well, if you start school and leave, that's fine with us. It goes anywhere you go. I mentioned earlier we've got students in 35 states, so you don't necessarily have to be here to do it. Now, I don't necessarily think, and of course we'll have to check, but if you start TA funding while you're in Missouri and you leave the state for employment, is that's going to be we're going to write that down. That's going to be a very specific question. Yeah, but you get Missouri because your plant was in Missouri, so you'll be fine because your plant was in Missouri. So that's going to be specific. I'm going to assume for a minute, just on other programs, that when you start and are eligible in Missouri and have to leave for employment, they're not going to just stop your training funds. But that's a David question. I don't think that's the case. We've not run into it yet, but we're going to take that one down and send it over to him and see what he says. That is probably not correct. No, that sounds. These are federal programs, and I'll use the word grant because and the federal financial aid, those are grants, Pell Grants. So this is treated a lot like that. Now, loans, which you won't be able to qualify for, I believe, on these, that is the case. When you borrow it, you pay those back. And the government does like a 6.8% for life, depending on how much you borrow. But that wouldn't. No, if you decide to start training and stop for whatever reason, you stop. Now, it may or may not allow you to restart after some period of time. Those are very specifics, but I don't think they just make you pay it back.
You are allowed one training.
Yeah, and we've seen this with Department of Defense with VRAP, which is a veteran training program. The very exact same thing. When you start, you can't stop for, I think it's 30 days is the break. You can take small breaks, and we offer small breaks. Most schools do. But if you stop for an extended period of time, what we call a leave of absence, that would then halt your benefits, and you wouldn't be able to transfer. You could transfer credits, but your funding would not follow you around from school to school. And they do that to limit taking a class here and then having to retake that very same class here when you move because they may not take the credit. And you'll get a lot of that with even neighboring schools have some trouble importing credits. I skipped you, didn't I?
Yeah. I was just curious, is these going to be like associate degrees in nursing?
No.
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead.
please.
Go ahead and say
You're going to have to add to the internet. No, these are, I would call these, we only teach things that we can teach over the internet. Nursing would not be one of them because of the clinicals. You have to have the hands-on experience. Ours are going to be, let's talk about healthcare for a second. Ours is going to be like the billing, coding, administration, back office, stuff like that, which you have practice with like the insurance software and things like that, but you don't have any patient interaction. Same with website design or business classes, like QuickBooks, things like that. Microsoft Office, for example, all of that you can accomplish online. But I'll use electrician as an example. It wouldn't be something that we can accomplish online, so we don't offer it.
Credits from other schools.
Yes, we, by rule of thumb, we can accept 75% of the program you're seeking. That's going to be very aggressive. I'm not seeing that yet in our 12-and-a-half-year history, but it doesn't have to be Missouri schools. It needs to be an appropriately accredited school. All state schools are accredited, and most schools that you've probably attended are accredited, and yes, we will import them there. I will add a small caveat to that. General ed courses almost have a shelf life for a long, long time. The basics, English, math, science, etc. But if you've got something, let's say you took Introduction to Programming in '92, although it's going to have the same title as our introduction to programming now, the language is going to be very different. Specific career courses have a shelf life applicable to the software or item you're learning, because it's going to be career specific for right now. So, but general business stuff and general courses are accepted because, writing is writing and has been for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, except for some of the newer stuff. But yeah, we accept credits. So we've got a limited screen size.
All right. Okay, yeah, so as far as our programs and everything, I'm Ramsey, I'm Director of Admissions. I've been in Maryville for a long time. I went to school here and played football and coached, and they tried to keep me here, but I had to leave. So these are our programs. Ours, we do things a little bit differently. We're a technical school, but we also see the value in degree programs. So every one of our programs leads to the next. This is 60 credits, this is 30. Well, this is the first half, this is the second half. And for these types of trainings, that does you I guess it's the best way to go about it, because, life happens, and, you don't necessarily have 4 years of uninterrupted time or even 2 years of uninterrupted time. Something could happen. So the idea is that in your first year, no matter what happens, you're going to complete a technical diploma, which is part one of your associate's degree. Now with this, they basically say they give you like 58 weeks, but there's other things in there that can extend it all the way up to 130 weeks of training.
20.
This, or 120 or something like that. Either way, this, as far as you see this amount of time, well, that's if you take it one at a time. That's at the standard rate. If you're in a hurry to get stuff done, you can go faster than that. You don't want to outrun your funding source, though. You don't want to go faster than they're willing to pay. So, those are all things we've got experience with, and we'll consider all of those. Either way you look at it, our entire associate's degree is on the side of the page, but it's $17,440. Your entire benefit is $15,000, and like I said, you won't end up having any out of pocket, and we're going to scholarship that $2,400. What's really unique about us too is we do total cost. We want you to know to the dollar exactly what you're going to pay before you ever even think about doing anything or taking the next step. There's no complex fee schedule or anything like that. We're truly, when you decide to go to school with us, we take care of books, software, everything. Everything's digital. You have instant access to it. You download software from our site. If you need unique accommodations, let us know. We'll do whatever we can for you. As far as our delivery system, so these are our main. Well, before I go to that, these are our 5 areas of concentration: programming, networking. Our most popular one is business administration, IT. What's really unique about that is it just gives you the broadest range of skills. Every business runs on the same software, Microsoft Office, and if you can learn Microsoft Office, that's usually the first thing that they're gonna look in your resume. That's the first thing that we teach in all of our programs. But the business and IT, it really dives into it. So you'll really know the number one software that drives today's business, and some basic accounting and stuff like that if you ever have to do it. Criminal justice usually is to corrections type work, administrative work in corrections, and then health information technology. That leads to medical billing and coding, administrative healthcare work. That's the ultimate goal there. All of these, we've got a consumer information page, that's what I'm going to show you next. We're required to disclose certain information to you. We're never going to mislead you. We're never going to tell you we'll guarantee you a job, because nobody can guarantee that. What we can do is train you the best that we can, and give you all the tools that hopefully can get you there. They can at least get you the interview. Yes, go ahead.
So when you're talking about that it costs $17,000 and everything, do we pay you and then we have to get the reimbursement from the TAA?
A lot of
or
schools
how does
operate
that
like
work?
that, but basically, when you're using a federal funding source, if you can confirm and verify that you're eligible for this funding, we don't charge you anything up front. It's very similar to federal student aid. It's illegal to charge students up front if they have a guaranteed funding source. So no, absolutely not. The idea is a lot of schools have application fees, registration fees, a lot of little fees that really don't tie into that. We don't have any of those. All of our students, they go to school using the same types of funding sources, and none of them pay up front. You start school, you go through the training, and then basically we bill the TAA, and they pay the bill.
A lot of federal and state funding pays depending on the successful completion of a course as well. So, generally speaking, if you were to not complete a course or fail a course, the program may not pay for it, and then you would have an outstanding bill. And that's the case with most of the programs that we work with, in fact, as a school. So that's one caveat. But if you're willing to do it, we have around the clock support, 24 hours, 7 day a week, live chat assistance, one-on-one tutoring within 24-hour notice. So there's very little opportunity for that to happen without the opportunity to fix the problem.
I'll take you to that. I know a lot of the questions. Yes, please.
We were under the understanding that we have to get accepted through the Federal Trade Act to, have this
Yeah.
information from them.
It's part of that whole application. Yeah, you don't want to start with your training before you do the appointment. There's like I'll call it an assessment, but that basically discuss and help you figure out which programs you want to use or can use. And then let's just say you decide on training. When you're eligible for that, they're going to tell you, and they're going to say, okay, now find a school. Then you take that step. If you do it out of order, it can get messy.
Any school you talk to, you do not want to sign on the dotted line until you have something preferably in writing from the Trade Act staff that says you are eligible to go to this particular school and you are eligible to enroll at this time.
Yep.
Because if you don't, you could be finding that you are enrolled in a class that you will not have to pay for.
Yep.
Does that normally take very much time, or?
It can.
Yeah,
They basically, once you do your interview, he confirms that everything's been done correctly, and then it gets sent off to Jeff City. They approve it, and then that's when you're ready to go. So really, it's going to be David kind of giving you the go-ahead. Basically, he said once you complete that interview, he said it's up to them to find a school. You'll talk to them about what you're thinking about doing, what schools you might be interested in. But at the end of the day, when that interview's done, you go out and find your school, and then you report back.
I would say the one caveat would be to that is that if 12 of you are looking at medical transcription and we only have a job rating of 5 in this area and you all want to stay in this area, some of you will not receive that training. So you definitely want to make sure that you're looking at your in-demand and talking with David very seriously about the types of training you're wanting to do.
If you guys, want to stick around, if you want information from me, if you want to ask me about it, if you haven't given your contact info and you want to give it, you can. If not, it's going to be on the website anyways. And we'll basically just send out emails with the PowerPoint and everything linked to it. So, we're just going to try to give you guys as much information as we can. A lot of times it's hard for them to field calls and to get questions answered. So, if you guys need information or anything, just please let us know. Call us anytime and ask us anything you like. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find it in a hurry. So, those are like you said. This is some information on us. If you guys need anything, just ask, and I'll be happy to talk about it as long as you want to listen. So just let me know.
Keep taking.
Yeah, sure.
Question, you mentioned TWA was one of your first clients, set of clients. I would guess that would have been a large amount of people.
It was 120-ish, give or take, that we retrained out of. I don't remember how many were laid off. I think maybe it was.
Pretty large amount.
It was a large amount, yeah. And it was quite a while ago, but yeah, we ended up retraining 120. And at that time, we only offered a 12-month program with the technical what's on the other screen. But so that was a good program. And at that time, that was in the early days of the newer Microsoft Office coming out. So we were very focused on the technology application in business. So as a business and IT certificate, we covered everything from basic computer use, do spreadsheets. I think we got into QuickBooks a little bit in case you found yourself in a situation where you need to use that at a business. It was a successful venture. I really enjoyed it.
When Quaker went down, did you work with a lot of the Quaker people?
No, I don't think so. No.
Quaker was in
NG, yeah, I don't recall any Quaker.
Same federal source, just different rules.
Do you allow any testing out of any of the courses?
No, not testing out of experience. Now, if you have say you took a class a long time ago and it was outside of the date range, but you had applicable work experience, that we'll let you say, okay, well, let's just do a refresher and allow a test of competency on that. But testing out for work experience is not something that we do, because when the employer goes to hire one of our students, it's because they got trained on the most recent whatever it is, and they depend on that software or that version of the healthcare code or book to be current. So if you're testing out of that, it makes it very difficult for us to guarantee that just because you did it at another job, that it was done up to the standards that the employers that we talk to expect.
And what we do is club testing. Club testing is basically a nonprofit organization that will allow you to take an assessment that proves that you meet the requirements for a 3-credit-hour basic English course. Or basically, they offer the main types of general education courses that are at most schools. So if you don't feel like you need us to teach you basic English, you can go take that test, and that does transfer in as college credit hours because it's it's regulated.
And that does a third party saying, yes, this person does have all of these objectives, and we will accept it from that third party.
something?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can talk to you.
yeah, you have the choice, and so typically, with the amount of money you're getting, it covers your training. So but it's because you've recently lost your job, you will then be able to qualify. There's some paperwork involved because they go off last year's taxes of which you were still employed. So there's an adjustment that has to be done. It's a, what's the word? Yeah, there's a little bit of paperwork, so it's not as smooth as just the normal FAFSA, but should you choose to fill out the FAFSA and do it, yes, it's additional funds. And since your cost of education is already covered, that goes to you for what they'll consider related expenses, whether it's, internet, computer, whatever the case is. But that is available, and it's $4,400 a year, or is it 40?
Pell Grant is 55.
55 now?
Yeah, 55.50, and it's
I've been out of school too long, yeah.
yeah, and it's a professional judgment, is what it's called.
That's what it is. Thank you.
Basically, when your taxes do not reflect your current income, when you do the FAFSA, and I can send you an email with all that info. I'll put it on the page too. Basically, it's going to ask you, are you a dislocated or displaced worker? And you're going to hit yes, and that's probably going to prompt you to be picked for verification, which will help you with that.
Your letter that you got will.
Right. You're going to have to prove that, yes, this is what I made, but I no longer have a job. And you're going to have the paperwork to show that. So.
And it takes a little bit of time, but again, the good news is once you're approved through the training, you don't have to pay it for it anyways. You're not waiting for reimbursement. So you want to do that, immediately when you start training. You want to start the FAFSA process because it can take up to 12 weeks. I'm sorry.
Is it the same if you have kids in college?
It is the same one.
Yeah, same one.
I mean,
Yes, you need to tell them that you have a dislocated worker situation, because it will affect their FAFSA.
Right.
Exactly.
And that stands for free application
For
for
federal
federal
student
student
aid.
aid.
That's right. Federal Student Aid is the program. It's Title IV, Higher Education Act. It's the bill that allows this to be possible. But it's taxpayer dollars allocated for people to go through training.
FASSA.gov.
Yeah.
And if you run into a site where they ask you to pay,
They'll pay.
that's not
I was
legit.
Yeah.
just going to say that if you don't
That's-
see this logo, the Office of the U.S. Higher Education, get off of it. It's FAFSA.com. They're going to charge you for what they're going to do.
Yeah. In this whole process, you should never, ever, should never have to provide your debit or credit card. So if anybody asks you,
Yeah, call me.
Don't do it.
You're on the site, close it, and I'll
Don't
get you
do
right
it.
place. Or,
Yeah.
and even then, we're not going to pretend like we're the best school for everybody. So, don't feel like just because you call me, we're just going to try to hard sell you. We don't do that. We want to provide information. We all care a lot about this community. We're almost everybody in our school and the administration has gone through Maryville and been to school here. So, we want to help you guys out. I'll give you all the information I can give you. I don't care where you go, just whatever you got to do to make it right and help stuff out.
Other question. In July, your kids are going to ask you to fill some stuff out again. It's every July. So,
No, we had to fill it out by April.
I'm sorry, it's due by July, April. Well, now, if you just did it, you could still at the financial aid office at your school, at your child's school, you can go ahead and say, listen, I just got laid off. I'd like to do professional judgment. If your child did not qualify for full Pell when they started, do it now because it's still in the same academic year. So between now and July, a financial aid officer can still make adjustments and it can add credits or debits to your child's education. But yeah,
That's laid off first before you do that.
yeah, but because it's still yeah.
You got to be able to show that you're.
There's a change,
Right.
but you got till July. Any changes before July still count for this academic year.
Yeah.
Which, so I guess going till November, so some of you won't have that opportunity for this year if you have kids in school, but definitely for next year.
And really, when you start, the way that financial aid process is basically per semester or per quarter, however they split it up. So either way, within a fiscal year, you're still going to realize that full $5,500 in Pell. If you don't start till November or December, doesn't matter. You're going to use Pell for half of it within the 2013-14 year, then the other half within the 14-15 academic year. So either way, if you're in school for a year, you will get a year's worth of Pell. So yeah, you're right. You can't go through the paperwork until you're laid off, but either way, you're not losing out on any money because of it. The whole idea for all this is that with your unemployment, with Pell, that can basically help pay the bills. TAA is going to pay for the training. That's the whole idea. So that you ought to be not stressed for you guys got a ton of stress right now. But at least it ought to make this transition a little bit easier to where you don't have to find a new source of income tomorrow. You can still do what you want to do, set some goals, and be okay.
So you could possibly get a Pell grant, help pay for education expenses, even though TAA is paying for the entire cost of your
You will be
school.
required to apply.
Yeah,
Yeah, they'll make you. They want you to take advantage of federal funding sources, anytime that they can, really. So, all, even state, all funding sources, they basically, first thing they'll tell you to do is fill out FAFSA, because they want to see what you can get there, and they want to make sure you're taking advantage of that before they shell out their own money,
Did you
basically,
use
as time
that
goes.
bill for?
Whatever.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's,
You can
it's,
use it for living expenses.
Yeah.
right. Pell Grants are for any educational-related expenses.
Which
And
includes living.
Right, and even if it's an online school,
Right.
it's laptop, it's internet, it's, it's whatever you need at home to make sure that you can attend and succeed. One thing with us, with federal student aid, you will see, basically, there's certain programs that you're allowed to take and not, and for us, it's associate's degrees are the programs that you need to declare if you want to use federal student aid. Like I said, ours is a 1+1. The first half is still a technical diploma along the way to the associate. So just keep that in mind. When you go through the process, if you want to use Pell, it needs to say associate's degree on that enrollment
They
agreement.
want you to be a degree-seeking
Right,
student,
degree-seeking.
even if it's a 2-year degree.
Reimburse.
Exactly.
You get a federal pass-through.
Whoever
and-
pays the bill first,
Yeah.
basically, and then whatever's left over goes to you. Yeah, it's your money. It's 100% your money.
Yep.
And we can't just say, oh, well, we'll keep the rest.
Well, yeah, no, I understand that, but I didn't know if, with the
Right.
federal trade, if it would be done different, but.
And there are some, the VA has a few funding sources that go to the student first, and then they say, you sell it to the school.
Yeah.
Those don't always work very well. People that are getting them are broke to begin with, so when they get money, they want to keep it. Either way, with federal student aid, it's always, the school has to administer. Yeah.
You have to pick your school. when-
Yeah, 'cause
Exactly.
if-
Only the school can request the
Yeah,
funds.
Because they're prepaying for a period of time, so if you stop training, we're responsible to send that back to the federal government. So it's a tricky situation. You kind of earn it as you go.
And it probably will come to you in disbursements.
Yep,
Right.
12
You
weeks.
won't get the full 5,500, even if you qualify for the full 5,500 upfront.
Right.
You'll
Right.
have to pay each
True,
quarter.
but I didn't know if
Yeah.
everybody understood.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Most schools do it at the semester,
Yeah.
okay, traditional students are taking 4 or 5 classes at a
Twice a
time.
year.
They'll just request it all, and, twice a year.
Ours
beginning of each
is
semester.
4 times a
We
year.
do ours 4 times.
Yeah.
I do have another question about your
Sure.
classes. Do you have certain times they start, or are you allowed to come
Yes.
in and start at any time?
Yeah, we are, we're not a correspondence school, it's not a, self-study, go at your own pace. We are a school attendance school, so we have scheduled start dates every 6 weeks. It's the best part about it. We're very technical in nature. We don't have 19-week-long semesters. We do 6-week courses. So the next one's May 20th, then July 8th, then every 6 weeks and so on.
And you take one class at a time. That's one thing I want to make sure we cover. Versus with your kids in school or when I went in school, we took
4 or 5 at a
5,
time.
6 classes at a time, and it drove us nuts. With adult learners, we found in research 1 class at a time for a shorter period of time is better than 5 classes for a longer period of time. Plus, the way our technology and the courses that you take build on each other. So you'll take intro to this, and it goes to part 2, then it builds on that, and so on. So a lot of our courses are project based. So you're actually, I'll say, building. You're working on this, presenting this in Excel, using PowerPoint, things like that. And it's tough to learn all that at the same time. So it builds on itself, course by course.
And that's it's a really easy concept. When you're 18 to 24, you can juggle 4 or 5 studies at a time. You don't have kids, you don't have family, you don't have bills to pay. You're just going to school. So adults do not work the same way. You've got a lot of other stuff distracting you. 1 subject at a time. It produces better results. And with the way that we do things too. That's a good question, like you asked, you start at any time, because a lot of online schools operate just like that. You come in whenever you want, you do the homework, you turn it in, you get your grade, and you move on. We're very, very different. We're what you call like a virtual school. Thank you very much. We're what you call a virtual school. We require live attendance. We have live virtual class sessions. If you've ever Skyped anybody, that's a lot. It's very similar to what it's like. You can see your teacher, you can hear your teacher, you can click a button to raise your hand, you can type a question, you can speak a question. It's a true virtual classroom. You're not just going to be sitting there reading and responding. It's a virtual classroom. We want to deliver the traditional education experience to you. And we're really the only school in the country that's doing that. I talk to 100 students every day and thousands a week. And I've yet to find another school that is doing it like we do, where we have 3 live sessions every day. You'll still have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and evenings. Everything's recorded. We also do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, evenings and weekends. 6:30 p.m. is a really common class time, so that if you're working an 8 to 5, we don't want you to have to choose between a job or education. Everything's recorded. You can watch anything 24 hours a day, homework if you on Sundays. And that's really the way it works. You focus one thing at a time, a couple of assignments a week of quiz, go to the next week. And it's the same thing. It's a really, we use a cookie cutter system. If you you have kids in college, or if you're taking traditional college courses, it seems like every instructor does their course their own way. And so when you go from course to course, it's like shock. It's like shock every time. Well, okay, so there's no assignments, there's just a final. Or anyway, the way we do it is every student, all the courses are presented in the exact same way. You'll take a pre-test, a post-test. Every week you'll have a pre-test and a post-test. It's really, you'll get into the routine of it. You'll know, okay, I got 3 assignments due and a quiz. 3 assignments due and a quiz every Sunday. They're short. The idea is that we want to give it to you bits and chunks at a time. Not say, learn for 6 weeks and then take the final, either pass or fail. That's how a lot of college courses are, and that doesn't work very well for adults, typically. And that's why our completion rates are higher, up in the 80s. Students who start a course, 80+% of them finish that course. Whether they keep going to school and finish their degree is a whole other story. They might have passed all their courses and then had a kid, or then got a job or lost a job, or there's a lot of things that get in the way of school. So, although roughly half of our students complete their associate's degree, 70+ complete the 1 year, and 80% of them pass the courses that they're taking. Those individual 6-week courses. So either way, like I said, we offer all the tools you need. We offer free tutoring. You're never going to have to worry about, well, what's this going to cost me, or how much money did this session cost me? You don't have to worry any of that. When you're a student in ACOT, whatever you need, we will do everything within our power and within the law to accommodate you. There's certain things that we can and can't do, but we'll do everything that we can. That's for sure. We want you to succeed. If you don't graduate, that's our fault. It's not always our fault, but that's the statistic we want. We want you to graduate. We want to do whatever we can to help you graduate.
There's a website, but the general rule of thumb is any school approved by the state of Missouri. So if the school can say that we are certified by the Missouri Department of Higher Education, as all community colleges, all university, anybody that calls themselves a college, I'm pretty sure by law is approved. Now, if it's a training institute or I'm trying to think of other ones. You've heard of the commercials where you go in for like a boot camp and you learn X. Probably not, but if they have the MDHE, Missouri Department of Higher Education logo, or can say they're certified by, then you're safe because it's a state authorized thing. But he'll pull it up. There's a couple sites.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's
it should be.
Actually, this is right. This is the one we were on.
Yeah, just type in Trenton Community College, for example. Yeah, Missouri, Iowa too. I don't think there's going to be any problem. Those of you who live in Iowa, to use these funds in Iowa. They're issued by Missouri, but again, as Kim mentioned, that's a question we're going to find out in post, but I'm pretty sure it's okay if you use it out of state, especially, now, I don't know if they'll let it go too far, but if you're a resident of the state, I'm pretty sure that'll be fine. Now, I do know states like to keep their money in their state, but if you live in that state but work in another, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, and there's a few. I saw that too. I bet nobody picked that.
Which one?
It's the to be a monk.
Oh. Fantastic.
So the one thing you guys want to consider is, you've got X number of dollars and X number of time to do it. I can't, don't let me sway your decision one way or another, but going for a 4-year degree with $7,000 is not necessarily a good idea. You'll get it through the first year, and then you run out of money. That's the thing you want to consider is cost versus time, basically, which is really why you want to stick with a technical school, because that's what they're good at, getting you in and out.
Well, right, and then one thing I want to point out is look for accreditation. So I don't know for sure, but I'm going to pick off a couple of schools on the list here. Go back to this one, brother. My presentation. We'll get there. But there's a couple that I'm willing to bet are not qualified.
It says right on the website, because I've looked at it.
Right.
Now, usually seminary schools are accredited. They've got their own special accreditation. These guys are accredited. Accredited that. I don't know. You need to ask if they're accredited by somebody.
Now, the website I looked at actually told you that the TAA or T, whatever it is, would approve it or not.
I'll tell you, it's usually not up to date or accurate in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, okay.
So the way you want to, like I said, TAA is a federal program, but it's not like there's some office in DC that is managing all this. They outsource it to WIA, the Workforce Investment Act, and that is run by the state. Each individual state and county, they've all got people in certain areas that do that job.
Like Hilliard's accredited? These guys are not. I'm not sure, and I'm not sure about Chillicothe, but you want to ask that, because even if they're approved by the state to operate, you still want to make sure you're getting quality education and training. So ask them for their accreditation. Should be right on their front webpage.
On the consumer information page,
Gotta be,
asking for that.
if they don't have that, the law with consumer info is they got to be first page. If they don't have that, that means they're not governed by accreditation. They don't have to have it, and they're probably not going to post graduation completion rates. So just be careful. Again, call Ramsey if you have a question about a school in your area. If you live in Iowa or wherever, Chillicothe, ask them. We have a very vast database. We can look them up in like 30 seconds and tell you that yes, this is a school that you're going to be fine with. This is not.
And just because they're WIA approved, they might not be Title IV approved. So
You won't get Pell Grants.
Right. You might
That's something you watch.
Right. So you definitely want one that you want them to meet all the marks. It needs to be a school that's established. They need to be approved by WIA and approved by federal student aid. If you want to fulfill
Because you'll be missing out on that $5,500 a year if they're not authorized by the U.S. Department of Education. And not every school can be. It takes many, many years of quality education to do that.
When you were saying, like, pay attention to what courses you take, how long you're gonna have to take them because of the money you're provided with, is it true, like, say that if you want to, like, she was talking about LPN and RN, like,
Right.
the LPN is like almost a 2-year course, correct? And then the RN is
Four-year
another
degree.
18
Yeah.
months or something
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
But you can apply for extra grants on
Yeah.
that, on top of that.
If the school offers it, yeah, that's usually what happens. So you use your TA in the first, 2.5 years or whatever it is.
Right.
And then if the school has it, which is why it's important you pick one, federal grants. Once your TAA is up, you can borrow money, and typically with nursing, the cost of that is substantial, far beyond what Pell Grants. So once you get outside of TAA, you lose a lot of the scholarship and the reduced tuition and all that stuff that schools typically offer, and you're into the regular, okay, my nursing degree is going to cost me $25,000, I get 10 from Pell, and you'll have to borrow the rest.
Okay.
But that's something that the school and the person will advise you on. But yeah, you'll be fine for the first 2.5 years, up to 15,000.
Okay.
And that's, and if your ultimate goal is to get, a 4-year degree like that, which is really what you're going for, you're going to be an RN, which is a 4-year program. We have the same model, same concept. Like I said, our technical diploma is part 1 of the associates. Well, the associates is part 1 of the bachelor's. It's the first 2 years of a 4-year program. So yeah, that's a good way to go about it, because if you want to go beyond, at least you've got the option. Maybe you get into a job and 5 years from now they're saying, oh, by the way, you need to get your bachelor's. Well, at least you're halfway there. Instead of having to start from scratch. So that's really important to consider. You want, if these funds aren't going to get you what you want, you need to at least make sure it's a great launching point. Because having to borrow an extra $10,000 or $15,000 to finish out what you want to do is a whole lot better than what most people have to do, which is $40,000 to $50,000+ in loan debt, like probably everybody in this room. If you've gone to school, most people are expecting to owe $50,000+ to the federal government. You guys have a TAA, you're not going to have that problem. You've got a huge head start. You've got $15,000 to get retrained before you have to think about anything else. And then you've got what's going to end up being $10,000 or $11,000 of Pell on top of that. And then you've got all the other stuff to help supplement your loss of your income.
One question I get a lot is, can we transfer this to our spouse or kids? And the answer is no. I've seen that before.
Also, with that, if you do have kids in college, that does affect your financial aid eligibility. Obviously, if you're putting another kid through college or 2, then you obviously are spending a lot of money on education already. So, number of dependents matters. Total household income matters when they consider Pell eligibility. All those things, it's based off of your tax return. So all the things you put on your tax return, all those play a factor in federal grant eligibility. Not TAA, but Pell Grant.
You guys feel free to